Hello. We are very grateful that you are joining us today, and we have two very special guests. I am going to introduce the first one, and then she is going to introduce our next guest by asking him a series of questions. We have WVU Parkersburg student Sidoni Beckford with us. She is an Army veteran and an Afro-Jamaican student at WVU Parkersburg. She aspires to become an accountant and a successful entrepreneur. Sidoni.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, good morning, Dr. Smith.
Good morning.
I have a few questions for you. Where did you grow up?
Well, Sidoni, thank you so much for participating, and thank you for taking your time to be with us today. I grew up in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, in a little place called Tutwiler, which is located in the metropolis of Tallahatchie County. Tallahatchie County is famous for one song that you probably never heard of, but it was called "Ode to Billy Joe," and he jumped off the Tallahatchie County Bridge because he was in love with someone that wasn't in love with him.
Interesting. Okay. What are interesting facts about your hometown?
Well, my hometown is a place that probably 99% of the population have never heard of, but there are two interesting facts about it that most of America should be aware of. One of them is Tutwiler is the birthplace of the blues. There's an interesting story of how W.C. Handy, who is one of the foremost identified people who started the American music revolution, was sitting in the railway station in Tutwiler, Mississippi, and he was waiting on a train that was about 9 hours late. And so as he was dozing off, he heard this strange music, and it shook him. It shook him to his core. And when he looked up and he saw this man playing what was called a slide piano, he played it with a knife, and he described the man as being a lean, loose jointed Negro. His clothes was ragged, and his feet were peeking out of his shoes, meaning that he had shoes that were not very good. And so he said that the man was pressing the knife against the strings of the guitar and making the strings and singing about going to the Yellow Dog Road. And so he started a conversation with the gentleman. And in that conversation, the gentleman kind of told him about, taught him how to play it and told him about the history of the music. And from there, he actually before this, he actually was a manager of an orchestra. But this changed his whole dynamics, and he took the blues from little Tutwiler, Mississippi, throughout the world, in essence. And a lot of people should have heard of Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a young Black man from Chicago, who had come to the Mississippi Delta to visit his relatives for the summer, and he was accused of making a pass at a white lady, and because of that, the white lady's husband and I believe her brother-in-law took him from his home and lynched him. And so, of all the places in the state of Mississippi that had to prepare the body, it was prepared in my hometown. And growing up in my hometown, I never knew this. And the person who did it was a close family friend. And I actually grew up with his children and some of his grandchildren. And so these are some of the things that are little known history facts that has taken place in small town Mississippi that a lot of people would ever know.
I have another question. Did they put up a statue of Emmett Till?
They did not put up a statue, but the funeral home where his body was prepared is actually there's a monument there. It's sad that the building has deteriorated to the point where it's actually going to have to be torn down. But there's at least a monument there to tell a story.
Why do you believe that education is the great equalizer?
Well, I look at my life as a case study, if you will. I can trace my family back to 1820 on the paternal side. But on the maternal side, I can trace them back to the about 1858, which is my great great grandfather. He was born in 1858, and my great great grandmother was born in 1862, and they had one child who was my great great grandmother or great grandmother, great great grandmother. Yeah, that's it. And so when I look at it, because of they were enslaved people. When I say enslaved, I don't say slavery because slavery seems to take away from the fault of the enslaver. So I say enslaved because that gives the fact that they didn't volunteer for slavery. They were enslaved people. So between slavery, the black codes, slavery, Reconstruction, the black codes, redlining, Jim Crow, disenfranchisement, marginalization, it took me over 125 years to actually to represent my family in higher ed. It was 7 of us. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and all of us went to college. However, I was the only one who actually finished and went on to get a terminal degree. Now, my wife and I have 7 children. Of those 7 children, 5 have attained a college degree and even to the master's level. 2 who are juniors in high school, they already know the expectations. So it took me, my family, 5 to 6 generation to reach higher ed. But because of what we started with my generation, it's already taken off to where all of my children have attained degrees, and the other 2, as I said, they know what the expectations are. And so that's the way you change the trajectory of the family. It's the most immediate way, which is through education, which is why I'm a fan and I believe in it.
Where did you attend college?
Well, I attended college on a football scholarship to Jackson State University. For those of you who may not have heard of Jackson State University, if you've heard of Walter Payton, that's where he attended college and played college football. And right now we have Coach Deion Sanders, who is a very well-known former athlete and a Hall of Famer who's actually a football coach there now. And so I went there on a football scholarship and was fortunate to be able to go to school. But I went to college by way of a football scholarship, but my mindset was to obtain a degree. That was my purpose.
How or why did you choose a career in higher education?
Great question. I graduated with a degree in mass communications with emphasis in broadcasting. My first job was in radio, and I realized that radio was not going to be a job that I would be able to do and have a family because the pay was horrible, and I wasn't willing to wait for the pay. And so I was fortunate to receive 2 job offers after leaving that radio station. One was at a local historically black college there by the name of Tougaloo College, and the other one was with a bank. And I thought about it, which one would I take? And after thinking about it, I decided to go into education. And even though the banking job, the salary was about $300 more, but I chose to go into higher education because I wanted to give back. And when I went into higher education, I really fell in love with that institution and what that institution gave and what it did for students. And from that point, there was no looking back.
Have you witnessed the work you've done make a difference in the lives of students?
Oh my God, absolutely. I've had the pleasure of recruiting students to come to college who were first generation college students. Now they are lawyers, they are doctors, medical doctors. Some are entrepreneurs, some are judges, some are educators, and I've seen it. I've seen it make a true difference in students' lives. And that was once one of my most memorable experiences was a young lady who was extremely bright, and but she was extremely poor. And so we had given her a full academic scholarship, but she had called and said that she may not be able to take it because she didn't have a ride, to college to get there. And so the person that I worked for, who was one of my mentors and one of my fraternity brothers, he told me that he wanted me to gas the recruitment car, which is a car that we use to go out and recruit, and go and pick this young lady up. Well, before I could do that, she'd actually called and said that she had found a way, and she came. And that young lady came to Tougaloo College. And from there, she went on to Harvard Law School. And now she's doing incredible things. Now, had it not been for that opportunity, who knows what would have happened to her life?
What is your current job title, and what is your current job title? I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, no, that's okay. I currently serve as the VP for Enrollment Management at WVUP, which is the primary campus of West Virginia University at Parkersburg, and I am the campus CEO for the Jackson County campus in Ripley, West Virginia. And I'm, from what I'm told, I'm the first African American to serve in those roles.
What methods did you use to get through difficult times in your career?
Well, growing up, we lived in a community that was separated by the railroad tracks that came through. On one side was the white side, and the other side was the African American side. And of course, we're in America, in the Mississippi Delta. That there was a stark difference between the two communities, but the difference was that in terms of material things, but there was no difference in terms of the love for the community. And so in growing up, we were always taught, I remember it was required that we learn poetry. We learned Annie Bell Lee. There once was a maiden who lived by the sea, whose name was Annie Bell Lee. And this maiden she loved with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. And so we grew up with learning these things. We learned the poem "If" when I think of Rudyard Kipling, when I think about the fact that historically he's a profound racist, but his words "if" really for me was a map to way to live my life. If you can keep your head when all about you, losing there's a blame and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself and all men doubt you, but making an allowance for the doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired about waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies and don't deal in hate, yet don't look too good and not talk too wise. So these are things that I look to when I'm in need of inspiration. Besides, growing up in a Christian family as well, but I really believe in the power of words. But also understand that words are beautiful, but action is supreme. So words without action is really not worth the paper that it's printed on.
How have the various colleges and universities that you worked for prepared you for the next step in your career?
I've had the opportunity to work in various colleges, from community college to four-year private to four-year public, to hybrid, to where you have a bachelor and community college degree offering institution. And in every stage, I've had the opportunity to learn something almost about everything. I've worked in the recruitment area. I've worked in admissions. I know a little bit about financial aid. I've been an alumni director. I've worked as a fundraiser. And now I've worked as an assistant vice president, and now I'm a vice president. So it has prepared me for the next level. And I've worked in various environments, here in West Virginia. It is about 97, 98% a majority, so there's not a lot of diversity here, basically based on the geographical nature of the area and the institution. So, but the experiences, you cannot, money cannot pay for it, cannot buy it. I've had the opportunity to work with some incredible people and some incredible leaders that I learned a lot from.
How did you end up in West Virginia?
Well, that's an interesting story. The relationship building is extremely important. The current president of West Virginia is Dr. Chris Gilmer. Chris and I met back in 1993. Both of us were fresh and early in our careers. Chris was this intellectual, this very smart young white guy, and I was this ex-jock, um, um, uh, smart young black guy. And we couldn't have been from two different, far apart from two different worlds, you know, but we had an instant connection. And throughout our careers, we've been apart, but then we've come back together. We came back together at Tougaloo College. Then Chris left and I left and we did some other things, but we've always remained in contact by way of email or by way of text or something like that. So Chris was fortunate in getting the presidency here. And when he was looking to go in a different direction with enrollment management, he thought of me. However, I didn't know that he was thinking of me. You know, he he lured me here to do to do some consulting work. And the next thing I know, I was accepting a job to come to West Virginia. And so it was based on a friendship relationship. And I think that we've done some good things here. And I think we're going to do even better things in the future.
What, if any, books are you currently reading?
Well, I try to stay very focused on reading something different every month. But for the month, I've always made it a habit to read something that I haven't read with regards to Black novels or African-American novels. And so I am trying very hard to read 400 Souls by Ibram X. Kendi. And it tells a story of the African-American experience from 1619 to, I believe, 1776 or even beyond. But it's a very difficult read because it tells unfiltered stories about what African-Americans had to go through in order to even survive, in order to exist, and about the wrongs and all the things that the community had to go through. It's a very difficult read, but I think it's a very necessary read because you know you don't read it to be vengeful. You don't read it to be angry. You read it because lest you forget. And we need to know that everything that we do, we stand on the shoulders of someone. And how do you understand and how do you know that? You know that by reading. And so that's what I'm trying to read and get through before February 28th. And so we'll see what happens.
I think you can do it. What advice would you give to a young higher education professional?
Well, the first thing that I would tell a young person who's interested in this, in getting into this business, that you don't get in it for the money. You know, it has to be something that's near and dear to your heart. It has to be something that you long to do. In essence, I think it has to be something that you're born to do, because you have to care about people. You have to care about young people. You have to understand that getting into this business, a lot of it comes with heartache, because you see a lot of success, but you see even more failure. You know, I would tell a person that's coming into this business that if they're going to be in it, to upgrade their academic credentials. You know, take advantage of if you're working for an institution or a university that provides an opportunity to go to get your graduate degree and to get it free of cost, to do that. I would tell a young person to know that if they're going to be in this business, that if they're going to be upward mobile, that means that they're going to have to leave. They're going to have to move. Some people are very fortunate to be able to sit in one area for 25, 30 years, and they are, you know, comfortable with what they have and what they've done. But I've found that this is my fifth state that I've worked in higher ed in, and I'm sure there are a few more that I'm going to go out for an adventure for. So, but the biggest thing is to really care about people, you know, and care about young people or old people, whoever is seeking an opportunity to upgrade their situation and to gain an education.
Dr. Smith, thank you for sharing inspiring words. Now that Sidonia has had a chance to ask you a few questions, we will now turn the table and allow you to ask her a few questions as well.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jackson. So, Sidonia, how did you end up at WVUP?
Well, my husband used to attend WVUP before he went to North Carolina, and then we met in North Carolina before I got out of the Army. and we decided that we would move back here, and he brought me to his old university. So that's how I came to know that university.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your service. So
Thank you.
what are you majoring in?
Right now, business admin, but I'm aspiring to become an accountant.
Excellent. So what would you tell a student who's interested in attending WVUP?
Okay, so at first I was nervous about attending WVUP because I did not know how I would be welcomed. I was scared that I would be judged or spoke to rudely, but I went to the campus and sat down with one of the advisors, Mrs. Terry, and she saw a person. And the faculty at the Veteran Center were helpful. And I left knowing that this was the college that I wanted to attend. I left feeling good. I felt more, it was a different feeling because I've attended quite a few colleges, maybe 4. And the faculty members at WVUP, they really cared. They really sat down and explained things to me that no one else had taken the time to. And I knew that this was a community I wanted to be a part of. My advice to students of color is just show up and just ask questions when you don't understand something, because WVP is really helpful, and they're caring. They care for their students.
Well, Sedona, you know what, that warms my heart because recruitment is essentially everyone's business. And the more that we participate and provide that optimal service, the more students that we'll be able to attain. So thank you so much for choosing WVUP. And thank you so much for participating in this event that we've had today.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Dr. Smith, we really haven't had a chance to find out exactly what you do, although we did hear your title. So if you would like to go ahead and share what that title means and the role that you fulfill at WVU Parkersburg, we would love to hear that.
Indeed, Dr. Jackson. As the VP for Enrollment Management, I am responsible for recruiting students and stabilizing enrollment. And so what we do is we deal with admissions issues, or we provide opportunities for students to actually attend the institution. They really can't get into the institution without coming through the enrollment management area. And also at the Jackson campus, that is a satellite campus for the main campus. And as the dean of that area, I'm responsible for the entire campus there. And we do the same thing, provide service to people who are looking to change their lives. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we want to do on a daily basis.
And would you like to give us a preview of next week's presentation with another Dr. Smith?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, in this business, you will develop and nourish so many friendships. And a young man who's coming, Dr. Rodney Smith, we've been friends for more than 20 years. And we actually used to recruit. He was at a different institution, but we would always see each other on the recruiting trails, of what we called it. And he's also my fraternity brother, but he is an expert on diversity and inclusion. So I wanted him to come and have a conversation, and so you guys could really learn some important things from him about the importance of diversity and inclusion and what it means to be an African American, and to get his experience and his take on what some of the things that he's done.
All right, and that programming will be held next week on Wednesday, February 24th at 12:15, right here on Facebook and YouTube Live. So we really thank you, Sidoni. Thank you so much for your participation today. And Dr. Smith, thank you.